Okay, shalom, y'all. Great to be with you again. For those of you who are uninitiated, I'm feeling very, very good, and I had my pacemaker procedure on Thursday, and when I was down on the operating table, I said, "Oh, okay, so you're changing the battery. It'll probably take about 10 minutes." And they said to me, "No, it'll take 2 hours." I said, 2 hours? They said, yes, we're changing your pacemaker completely. And I'm not complaining. I mean, if the hospital and as the producer of these machines wants to give me a new pacemaker, I'm going to complain. So anyway, tomorrow I'm going back to the hospital to remove the bandage. They said, don't take it off yourself. We also have to take out the stitches. So tomorrow morning, God willing, I'll be back in the hospital to remove all this paraphernalia. And so I said to Rachel, well, it looks like I can start preparing my trip to the States. I mean, it's been 2 years that I've been thinking about preparing my trip to the States. Anyway, so they just announced, okay, here comes the message. They just announced this morning, your time, afternoon, my time, the Iranians have said, no dice. We are not changing anything, and we're not surrendering to President Trump, and we're not doing anything. And so I want to read to you a very short part of the email I just received. I imagine you all heard of CENTCOM, Central Command. You've heard of that, I believe. General Kurilla. He sits in Europe, and I'm going to read one paragraph. In a move resonating deeply with Israeli audiences, the United States Central Command, CENTCOM, took to social media Monday with a striking Hebrew language post on its official X, formerly Twitter account, signaling both military readiness and solidarity with Israel amid heightened regional tensions, as reported by Israel Hayom newspaper. The post served not only as a commemoration of past cooperation, but also as a not so subtle message aimed at both allies and adversaries. The post referenced Juniper Oak 23/2, a major U.S.-Israel joint military exercise held in January 2023, designed to bolster operational coordination between the two nations' armed forces. It read, quote, January 23, 2 years ago, U.S. Central Command and the IDF participated in the Juniper Oak exercise, a bilateral military drill designed to enhance operational coordination between U.S. and Israeli militaries. Our units are always ready to operate together because we always train together. Anyway, it goes on. It's a very long article. The Iranians, for all of you who have not heard, the Iranians have totally rejected any kind of compromise regarding their nuclear program and their rocket program. And so I think they got on the wrong side of President Trump. I don't recommend to anybody to get on the wrong side of President Trump. But anyway, that's what they did. And so I think that, I don't want to say today, tomorrow, 24 hours, but I think that the message has been very understood by the U.S. and American militaries. And I think we're going to see some action. So I'm going to wait until this shebang is over before I start planning the trip to the States. You know, the Iranians have promised that all hell will be unleashed, just like President Trump says. And Israel's going to get all these missiles as a gift from Iran. So this is breaking news. I mean, this is just in the last hour that the Iranians have totally rejected any kind of agreement with President Trump, with the United States. So it looks like we're going to see the U.S. Air Force getting a lot of practice together with the Israeli Air Force. I did want to say something, without being too cynical and without being too skeptical. Iran has the total backing of Russia and China and North Korea. I don't want to say World War III is going to break out, but I will say that, by the way, also the Russians have sold their latest attack aircraft to Algeria, not to Iran, to Algeria. So it says Iran is out in the cold. Russia is not really standing. I think that there's a commonality of interest here, that everyone wants to see Iran humbled. Everybody wants to see this crazy regime out of power since 1979. I mean, we're talking about 45 years. So we are here in Israel ready for whatever happens. I have my new pacemaker, so I can go out and fight. I fight with my wife, that's enough. And otherwise, we're doing well, and very excited about everything that's happening. I do want to tell you that, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with Turkey, because at this stage, I think Turkey is just waiting off on the sidelines. But Israel has had, it seems, fruitful negotiations with the Turks, courtesy of Azerbaijan, and a line on the map has been drawn over Tadmor. Tadmor is in smack center of Syria, and there's like an unofficial agreement that the Israeli sphere of influence will reach Tadmor from the south and the Turks from the north. That means that Damascus will be in the Israeli sphere of influence, which is very important, because you have in Damascus a lot of Christians and a lot of Shiites. And Israel is warning, off the record, warning the Turks regarding ISIS murdering the Shiites and other people in Syria. Iran, there was this very scary report on the TV yesterday that Iran is sending caravans, mobile homes, into the south of Lebanon to replace the homes that were blown up by the Israeli military in order to rebuild the infrastructure for Hamas. Hezbollah. Is that an echo or is somebody talking? Okay. So Israel has made it very clear that if Israel has to, Israel will reinvade the south of Lebanon, because we're not going to just sit there for another year or two and wait for Iran to rebuild the infrastructure there. But again, if Iran is going to be taken out in this new offensive, I think we're going to be doing very, very well. I think that Hezbollah in Lebanon will be ground to zero. Hamas will be ground down to zero. I mean, we're hoping for our hostages to get out, but Hamas has to be destroyed. Hezbollah has to be destroyed. The Turks have been warned that we know what to do if we have to, and we're hoping the Turks will try to live in peace with us, because the Turkish plan is to send their troops all the way down to the Golan Heights, which is something Israel will never agree to. So, I would say instead of being surrounded by 7 enemies, we're surrounded by 8, and minus Hezbollah, minus Hamas, minus Bashar al-Assad's group. And of course, the United States has done a pretty good job neutralizing the Houthis in Yemen. So I think God has been good. I think God has helped us to wipe out a whole bunch of enemies. Now we have a president who understands us, President Trump. Biden is part of the reason for all the trouble we've been having, especially the nuclear project in Iran, especially the funding for Hamas, Hezbollah, Syria, Houthis. All these groups are being crushed by Israel and the United States. And now we get to the head of the octopus, which is Iran. And like I said before, if the Iranians refuse any kind of, I don't want to say surrender, but it is a surrender. Israel has said we would be ready to not have a war with Iran if they did in Iran what the United States did with Libya. Libya was working in the direction of a nuclear project, and President, I think it was Reagan, said to blow it all up, and the United States helped Libya to blow everything up, and that saved Libya from having a nuclear project. Then, of course, you had the Arab Spring, which turned everything upside down again. Here in the Middle East, everything gets turned upside down. Like I said before, if today they just announced Iran is not ready for any compromise, I think we're looking at some kind of a conflagration. United States and Israel as allies, maybe the British, maybe others, we're finally going to finish this Iran problem. And my prayer, because I don't hate the Iranians, I love the Iranians. My prayer is that the Iranian people will get some kind of a new government. I don't know. It seems that the most popular candidate to run the new government is the Shah, the former Shah son, Reza, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But we're very relieved that Israel, if the U.S. and Israel finish this business with Iran. So that's the breaking news in the last hour. So if anyone wants to ask questions, Lori's driving, so I don't know if Lori can take questions unless she's in one of those Dallas jams if she's in Dallas. And but other than that, it seems that we're doing well. From what I understand until now, regarding the Gaza population, 1,000 Gaza laborers, which means 10,000 together with their wives and children, have been accepted by Indonesia. What have I been saying all these months? Indonesia is the best country to send the Gaza people to. It is 99% Muslim, Sunni Muslim, which is good with the Gaza people. There are no Jews to slaughter. There are some Christians, there are Hindus, Buddhists on the island of Bali, which is a tourist island. But Indonesia is a country that will welcome the Gaza people who are leaving. I can tell you also now that a lot of the Gaza people, a few hundred of them, have left to go to Germany. A lot of these people have German passports, so the German government took responsibility to remove these German passport holders back to Germany. Romania, Italy have taken in a few hundred. This is really, I don't want to say it's hush-hush, but it's not being publicized, which I think is a good idea. And so we're getting the little by little. I think we're approaching the 1% mark to get the Gaza Arabs out of there. Hamas is being ground down. Israel now controls 40% of Gaza. 40% of the territory is controlled by the Israeli military. So we're very optimistic that Gaza is going to be finished very soon. And I don't mean killing the people. I mean, the people have to be removed to another place where they are not a threat to Israel and they're not a threat to each other. Let them go. And we're not kicking anyone out, but 50% of the residents of Gaza, they want to leave. So why are they being prevented from leaving? So Israel is working with the United States and with other powers to get them out. Hamas is not happy about it, but Hamas is not happy about anything less than the destruction of Israel, which is, of course, something we're never going to agree to. So that's regarding Hamas. There seems to be some negotiation. I think somebody is unmuted, so I'm hearing background noises. So I'm hoping that there will be some kind of resolution to the hostage problem. At this stage, from what we are hearing, there is some kind of an agreement regarding 9 live hostages being returned and 16 bodies, which is, it's not everything out of 59, but it's a good step. So we're working in that direction. I don't know if I mentioned it. I don't think I mentioned it, but there are now tours Israeli tours to the Lebanese border and the Syrian border. And I'm not talking about up to the fence. I'm talking about over the border, at the headwaters of the little rivers that flow into the Jordan River. They're really pieces of Garden of Eden. So my son Yaakov went with his family. People are online. These are tours which are escorted by the Israeli military. Also, the bridge which used to service the Hijaz Railway in southwest Syria, which got blown up by the Palmach in 1947 or something. So it's into Syria. And Israel, of course, is in control of the whole Mount Hermon. We have our allies now, the Druze. The Druze are 100% with Israel now, which is a great thing. The Kurds, we have told them to wait until we finish our problem with Turkey, because Turkey is against the Kurds. And we have told Turkey we will protect the Kurds as well. The Christians are gravely threatened in Syria, so we are ready to protect them too. This business with Syria is not over; it's just beginning. But the important thing is that Bashar al-Assad is out, and we have a lot of minorities who made up the Bashar al-Assad coalition, and Israel wants to make sure that there are no more ISIS-type massacres of the Christians, the Jews, the Shiites, the Kurds, all these groups in Syria. And so we're waiting to see where all that goes. That's regarding Syria. I think in Iraq, the Shiite militias have disarmed. They don't want to be involved in a losing proposition with Iran. I think pretty much that's the update. If there are any questions, I don't know if Lori wants to do questions. I know you're muted, Lori, but if you want to let me know if it's possible, at least one or two good questions. I know, Lori, you always have the best questions when we start with the questions.
Can I ask a question? Can you hear me?
Ari, yes, go ahead until Lori intervenes.
Okay. I have some friends over there who are just visiting Israel for the first time on tour, and I'm just curious, when there's news of a rocket attack from Yemen, for example, what does the average person do just walking around the streets of Jerusalem? Do they have to look for a bomb shelter and try to run to it, or how does that work exactly?
Well, firstly, I have to tell you that together with the help of the United States military, these missiles from Houthi Yemen are intercepted south of Israel. The problem is when the interception takes place, the missile blows up, and also the Israeli and the American interceptors blow up, and so there are fragments which are scattered over many parts of Israel. And so, I don't want to rely on God only. I don't want to rely on miracles, but we have not lost anyone to these missile attacks. This is an unbelievable miracle that we have been enjoying with God's help. I was at my son's house on Passover and on Sunday, and there was a missile from Iran, from Houthi Yemen, and I mean, we heard the bombing explosion, but the missile was taken down over, I think it was over Eilat, but the parts were still falling on the Negev and near Hebron. So yes, people are supposed to look for the nearest shelter, or at least get inside a building, because what you have coming down is not the missile itself, but fragments of the interception. So listen, we take all of this in our stride. So anyone who's a tourist I have not heard of any Israeli citizens or any tourists who have been hurt by these missiles. You know who does get hurt? People who run and then they trip and they break a leg or they break an arm or something. People, panic and then they run. And I shouldn't be saying this, but I'm very glad I have an air raid shelter in my home. And basically, I go take a chair from my living room and bring it into the air raid shelter and a chair for my wife, and we sit there and watch TV. And then after 10 minutes, we're able to leave the air raid shelter. But tourists who are in the street, I think the tourist guide will tell them, just make sure you're not walking around in the street when the air raid sirens are going off for a long time. Get into some kind of shelter, some kind of a building, um, and you'll be okay.
Yeah. I'm interested in the whole subject of Israel's sovereignty over the territories after independence. What exactly were their borders when they became independent? And it's so interesting. Are you familiar with some of the uh, more conservative or right of center legal scholars like Eugene Kontorovich or Natasha Hausdorff or Avraham Bell, that say that using the international law principle of uti possidetis juris, that when British pulled out the day before Israel declared independence, um, then and Israel declared independence, since the Arabs had rejected both partition plans, the first one in 1937, the Peel Commission, and then the second one in 1947, the UN General Assembly partition plan, there was no Arab state that came out of the time of the British administration of Palestine, and so Israel basically has inherited the borders of the entire British Mandate from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. And yet, when you query um, the internet about that, they say, well, no, the borders were not determined. They were vague. They were under negotiation and so forth. And what was so sad about that confusion is that when Jordan invaded Israel in 1948 and took control of the West Bank, and Egypt took control of Gaza, the UN and the EU and the United States and the UK, and so nobody demanded that those troops withdraw from from the territories they conquered. Now they did. The UN did demand that Syria withdraw from Lebanon after Syria took control of Lebanon in the 70s and 80s, and then they demanded that Iraq withdraw from Kuwait when Iraq invaded Kuwait, and all based on the territorial sovereignty that for some reason they Lebanon and Syria and Iraq, they were mandates just like Israel was, just like Palestine. For some reason, those borders of the Arab states are sacrosanct, and the whole world has to respect that, and they're inviolable. But for some strange reason, when it comes to Israel's borders, everything is up for grabs and nothing is well defined, and it's all subject to further negotiation. Does that strike you as strange that there's this confusion about that?
No, listen, everything you mentioned is right, and it applies today also. Um, I'm going to change the subject a little, but I'm going to come back. Israel was facing war with Syria since its independence. And the Syrian approach was, that there would be no peace. In let me remember, yes, 1994, when Rabin was the prime minister, well, if you remember, 1979, we made peace with Egypt. 1994, we returned not a lot of land, but some of the land to Jordan that was in the Arava and the island of Peace, so called, which is just south of the Sea of Galilee. And so we had peace with Jordan. And Rabin, contrary to his promises in the 1992 elections, uh, was negotiating behind the back of the Israeli people for a peace with Syria. And the Syrians demanded no compromise regarding the Golan Heights. It all had to be returned, meaning that the Syrian army could basically take the northeastern corner of the Sea of Galilee, or the eastern part of the Sea of Galilee, and then go swimming there, because that was the armistice agreement from '49. And the people who most opposed all of this was the kibbutz, the socialist collectivized settlements that suffered a lot from the bombardment of the Syrian army. And there was an agreement in Israel that was not an agreement that was feasible. So Syria, because they demanded everything and refused any kind of compromise, the peace with Syria never took place. Now, all of a sudden, I don't know if you, Ari, I don't want to say if you're a religious Jew or if you just believe in God. It doesn't matter, religious, non-religious.
I'm messianic.
Messianic, okay. Listen, Messianic, Christian, Jewish, rabbinic, it's all the same as far as I'm concerned. The Islamic ISIS people will kill you and kill everyone who is not a fellow Muslim. And as you know, the Middle East, the Sunnis kill the Shiites, and the Shiites kill the Sunnis, and everybody kills the Christians and the Druze and the Kurds. Everybody's killing everybody, and so nobody recognized the Israeli border, and so there was a war. Or in the case of Syria, Syria was self-destructed by the Sunnis, backed by Turkey, after the fall of the Hezbollah in Lebanon. This is like a domino effect. So you're right. You know, the borders of 1949, which were not the borders of the UN resolution. Uh, Listen, they refused, like you said, the 1936 Kiel Commission borders. They refused the UN separation of 1947. They refused that. Every war that we went into, they refused. They, the Arabs, except for finally when Begin made peace with Egypt. By the way, the Egyptians are preparing for another war with Israel. I don't know if you've been following that where you are. They
Yeah,
have
that's very scary.
hundreds and hundreds of Egyptian tanks right on the Israeli border. If I were President Trump, I'm sure he's saying this behind the scenes, I'd just say B-52 and blast the heck out of all these. But the thing is, there have been a number of cases, which I personally was involved also, of Egypt swearing that they were going to attack Israel, even though they got back 100% of Sinai. So, you know, we're watching everything very closely. You
I
have
mean,
to remember,
this seems like this, not to interrupt you, but just to touch on the immense military potential security challenges Israel's facing. That you have Egypt. I mean, America has been basically bribing Israel to be at peace. I mean, bribing Egypt to be at peace with Israel since '79. You know, since the Begin Sadat Accords, with like something like, what is it, $2 billion a year in advanced military weapons. So they have a very advanced military courtesy of the United States, right? And so but basically it forces the U.S. to keep, you know, bribing them, keep the payoff going. Otherwise, they could turn against Israel at any time because it's always been a very cold peace. They've never really had an exchange of industry and diplomacy and tourism and things like that. And that I just want to touch on, but I want to touch on another thing and have you comment on it, is that I heard from one Israeli commentator that the same thing that happened on October 7th is the stage is set for the same thing to happen on a much, much, much larger scale from the West Bank, because you have the same mindset. You have people, I guess, building, in the Palestinian-controlled territories. Are they are they building tunnels and stockpiling rockets and things for an attack on Israel? What do you know about the likelihood of an October 7th being repeated, but much worse from the West Bank?
100%. You're 100% right. There are people in the Jewish communities, both in Judea and Samaria, but also in Kfar Saba, in these Israeli towns, Ra'anana, Kfar Saba, Kfar Yonah, and they're talking about that they hear noise drilling under the ground. So the West Bank so-called Arabs, they're digging tunnels. We know this. But it's a question of damage control. Damage control, we've got to take care of the first damage, which is Gaza, then Lebanon, then Syria. And we have been warning the Judea and Samaria, Ramallah-controlled Palestinian Authority that if they want to be Gaza, they will become Gaza. They will be completely destroyed. I will say something though, and you're going to probably laugh, all of you, when you hear what I'm going to say. Yesterday, the biggest mall, a shopping mall, the biggest mall in the entire Middle East has been opened up in Ramallah. And a lot of people are saying, hey, we don't have any money. Why did you build this tremendous, it's a showcase in Ramallah, part of the West Bank, so-called. I think the Israelis allowed this to happen so that the Palestinian so-called people would say, listen, you have one of two choices. Either you have malls or you're going to be turned into desert, completely destroyed by U.S. and Israeli aircraft and tanks. Listen, we know there are things happening. I have to tell you something also. In 1993, I was invited to participate, and I actually completed officer training as an IDF spokesman. We were told in 1993 that they're digging tunnels in Gaza. And one of the reasons that Ariel Sharon handed over, President Trump, I love President Trump. I voted 3 times for President Trump. And he says, I don't understand why the Israelis handed over Gaza. Sharon, our prime minister, said we handed over Gaza because we could not stop the digging of the tunnels. And anywhere they wanted to go, they dug tunnels. They put in half a ton of dynamite under Israeli army positions and blew them to Kingdom Come. Also, the Jewish communities in Gaza were being attacked with these tunnels. And so, as you probably know, I think it was President Clinton in 1993 when I was in this course. Do you think President Clinton would have allowed Israel to go in and wipe out all these tunnels? So in 1993, we knew the tunnels were being dug. I don't know how it can be that all this was ignored by Ronen Bar, the guy who just got fired as head of the Shin Bet. They've been doing tunnels in Gaza. They're doing tunnels in Judea and Samaria. I don't know if you know this or not, but I thought your question was going to go in another direction. What about Hezbollah? Hezbollah have been digging tunnels under the border into Israel for many years now. And many Israelis living on the northern border were complaining to the Israeli army, to the Israeli police, that they hear digging. They hear the machines, jackhammers working under the ground into Israel. And the military said, no, hogwash, there's no tunnel, there's no nothing. And then guess what? There were tunnels. I think the Israeli military prepared for that. But the great miracle, also something that I didn't see you alluding to, but you could have alluded to, and that is we had a miracle from God that Hamas attacked us without coordinating with Hezbollah. And when they said to Hezbollah in Lebanon, will join us in the war in the jihad against Israel, and Hezbollah said, listen, you started this by yourself, so have fun. But they did launch a whole year of rockets at us. 70,000 Israelis had to be removed from their homes by the Israeli government and put in hotels all over the country. But the miracle was that, and I knew about this from a war game, general staff level in 1993, that Hezbollah could have conquered the north of Israel, and after 3 days, we finally would be able to remove them. But this is a tremendous threat.
Well, why do you think they didn't? I mean, why didn't they join Hamas?
Because they were very offended. There's a word called ego. These Hezbollah people have an ego, and all of a sudden Hamas goes ahead and attacks Israel while telling Hezbollah, and then they say to Hezbollah, join us. Iran also said that they were going to attack Israel. But listen, I'll tell you something else also. These crazy terrorists, Hamas terrorists, were flying into Israel on paragliders. You know that.
Yeah.
And they were on their way to different Israeli cities in the south to conquer these Israeli cities, which is also psychotic. There's no way they could have done it. But as they were flying over the border, they saw the Nova Party. And so they called back to the commanders in Gaza, said, hey, we're wasting our time. Let's go back and kill all these boys and girls who are dancing in the Nova Party. So as much as it breaks our hearts that we lost 1,200 of our kids, and we lost 200-300 of our police and our soldiers, that sacrifice that we paid protected Israel. And it seems you know your history very well. And so I'll just tell you, listen, there is an element of God involved here, and God has a way of confusing the enemy to do stupid things. The attack itself was stupid, the Gaza attack. Then later, the Hezbollah attack was stupid. And Israel has been paying and paying and paying, but in the end, we win every time. Look at the borders of Israel now. You know, we are deep, deep into Syria now. And we have completely withdrawn because of Biden. We have completely withdrawn from Lebanon. But it seems we're going to go back in again. The news media is that Hezbollah is completely reorganizing and rebuilding in the south of Lebanon. Israel cannot sit back and wait. So I think we can all expect to see some kind of military action by the Israelis. And we will be back in South Lebanon up to the Litani. We said to the Hezbollah they have to withdraw north of the Litani. We threatened. Nobody paid attention, and they came back. They came back down to the Israeli border again.
Well, did the northern Israelis ever return to their homes and businesses?
What we have, I think today, they're not really giving the full amount of returnees. I think the returnees were beginning to come back. It was like 10-15% of the northern citizens went back to their homes. And then it stopped because when Hezbollah started shooting missiles again, the Israeli government said, okay, we're going to freeze everything until we finish this thing. So we are still, listen, a lot of the homes on the Lebanese border were destroyed. A lot of homes were not necessarily completely destroyed, but there was great damage to the homes. People cannot live in those homes, so they have to fix everything first. Then there's another thing. They have to fix the schools. You're not going to go back to live in your home if you can't send your kids to school. A lot of these families are young families with little kids. So the schools have to be rebuilt. The homes have to be rebuilt. Another thing, business people, the guy who has a pizzeria or a restaurant or all these shops that communities must live with, they need the shops. How can the owner of the shop go back to his destroyed store or business? Everything has to be built coincidentally. So I would say it's the best, to my knowledge, the best of my knowledge is that it's 10 to 15% of the northern citizens have gone back. In the Gaza envelope, about 60 to 70% have gone back. There too, there are some kibbutzim that were destroyed, were very, very destroyed. You're not
So
going to.
who's paying for the relocation costs of putting all these Israelis up in hotels or wherever they are? I mean, are they staying with family, or is the government paying their room and board while they had to?
I don't know how the final accounting will be, but the Israeli government pays.
Yeah.
The Israeli government pays. Um, um, I'll tell you another thing. It's on the flip side of the coin, and that is that with the war, all the tourism stopped. Had the Israeli government not paid the hotel stays of all the people who were removed from their homes, all the hotels would go bankrupt. So now we're recognizing a new problem, that we have to get the tourism up and running again, otherwise the hotels will fall. So the government has to help to maintain the hotels. And now, like I said, just an hour ago, the Iranians said that they're not going to make any kind of compromise. So we are expecting the Iranians to fire hundreds and hundreds of ballistic missiles at Israel. Listen, Israel and the United States military take this very seriously. And I think the Brits are involved. I have news for you. Saudi Arabia is backing us. Jordan is backing us. There are a lot of countries which are now part of the alliance against Iran because they're also threatened. The Emirates are with us. So the U.S. government has set up Patriot missiles also in Saudi and all these other places. Also, the Houthis in Yemen have been firing missiles at Saudi Arabia. I don't know if you remember this, but a few years ago, 50% of the oil production of Saudi Arabia was destroyed by the Iranians. So I think this time we're looking at 4th of July. Let me tell you.
I want to bring up something else. I came across this um, Trump's national security team. They come out with an annual threat assessment, a global threat assessment. And they said that Iran stopped working on nuclear weapons in 2003, and they have not restarted the program. It requires a direct command of the Ayatollah or whatever. And that was strange to me because all the other news I've heard over the years is that Iran's getting very close to a nuclear weapon. They're working on it. They may have enough, material for a bomb. They just need to finalize the missile, the rocket or missile, the delivery system or whatever. So how do you make sense of that? Are they? Why would if the U.S. is coming out with a threat assessment saying they stopped working on the nuclear bomb 22 years ago, why are they in discussions with Israel to possibly attack the Iranian nuclear facilities?
Probably Biden's so-called intelligence sources. It's old information. Have you heard of Saba?
No.
Saba is the nuclear inspection organization of the UN, and they were kicked out of Iran because they said we have no way of controlling what they're doing. They're doing. Israel. I mean, I'm glued to the TV every day, every hour almost, and they're saying that the Iranians are within a breakout period regarding a bomb in 2-3 weeks. They're still working on missiles, but when they finally get,
But how do they know if they can't go in and inspect it?
I have to. We don't have time for joking around, but I have some jokes which would help to explain it. We have our people inside Iran. We know what's going on.
Oh, okay, I understand. Yeah.
I think maybe under Biden, you had some very, very naive, optimistic people who thought, oh, everything's okay, nothing's going to happen. And there's only one threat to the state of Israel, and that is Iran. nuclear project of Iran.
Well, but with this threat assessment I'm talking about is very recent. It's from the Trump administration. So evidently they're not talking to the same people in Israel that you're getting on the news.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. Listen, all of these terrorist organizations, Gaza, Hezbollah, Houthis, Syria, Iraq, all these things are funded by Iran. So it's not just nuclear project, but the nuclear project definitely is at the middle of all of this. This is what we have on the Israeli TV. Also, you have to remember in the Trump administration, you've got, I think you have on the one hand, you have neocons, and on the other hand, you've got libertarians. And the libertarians are looking for every excuse to avoid any kind of a war. And Trump also said, I don't start wars, I end the wars. So we'll see. I think the American military knows exactly what's going on. They're training with the Israelis on what targets to hit. And these targets have to be hit so that the nuclear project stops.
I want to give other people a chance to ask questions.
By the way, all your points are fantastic and accurate. So I appreciate your input. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I really don't want to turn the project off today, but if you any questions, I'll start picking on people. Why aren't you asking questions? Yeah, I see Helen Lanine is laughing, and Ben Howard always has a smile. That's good. Lori, you always have good things to say. Are you listening? I know Lori is driving, so she's not really free to answer.
Yeah. Something I didn't understand.
And then,
Well, something I didn't understand. You said something about building an infrastructure in Lebanon. I didn't understand what you meant by that, but they wouldn't let them do it.
well,
You
the
said,
thing is, the Hezbollah control the south of Lebanon. Lebanon is divided up into four ethnic groups. You have Sunnis, who are primarily in the northern part of Lebanon. Then you have Christians who are in the Beirut and the Shuf Mountains. And then south of them are the Druze. And then at the very south, it's mixed also, but you have primarily the Shiites, the Hezbollah, backed by Iran. And Iran has spent since 1983, you can do the math, 1983, 17 years plus 24, over 40 years, we're facing Iran in the south of Lebanon. And you can see in the south of Lebanon, right on the Israeli border, beautiful, beautiful homes. Over half of them belong to Hezbollah. The homes that are Hezbollah, they make a hole in the floor, and then they dig these tunnels, which go under the border into Israel. And like I said before, we were hearing the jackhammers chopping away at the stone across the border in Israel. Israelis were complaining. And then, like I said before, when Gaza attacked, the Hezbollah did not know about it ahead of time. And then when Hezbollah started to attack us with artillery and everything, we went into Lebanon, and we discovered all these tunnels under the border into Israel. We had a miracle from God. And so all these homes were destroyed by Israel because they weren't homes. They were frontline stations, for Hezbollah. So now what Iran is saying is we're going to rebuild everything. And it'll take us another 20 years and we'll attack Israel again. So the Israeli military said, well, better to nip this thing in the bud. So probably that's what's going to happen. But again, if Iran is taken out, and let's say, God willing, there is a regime change in Iran, I believe the money will stop. And then the money stops, there's no more enemy digging under the border into Israel.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't
But
understand what you meant by the homes.
you know
Oh, okay.
what? I know it's not easy for you to come to Israel, but if you could come to Israel and go up to the Lebanese border, you see all the homes that have been destroyed on the Lebanese side because they were all front line positions. They were like 100 yards from the Israeli homes, and they
Mm,
were shooting into the Israeli homes, also RPGs, all kinds of weaponries to make life impossible for any Israeli
uh-huh,
on the Lebanese border. And so
uh-huh.
we have to rebuild everything. But
Oh,
Hezbollah was defeated. The question is, will they be resuscitated by Iranian money and help? A funny thing, I don't know if you can call it funny or not, but Hezbollah is now fighting the Turkish-backed ISIS Sunni people in Syria. There are cross-border battles between Hezbollah and the Sunni. And the Israeli motto is, we wish both sides success.
mhm. Oh,
That the Shiites
okay.
kill the Sunnis and that the Sunnis kill the Shiites. And meanwhile, our job is to try to protect the Shiites that want to be allies in Syria and to protect the Christians, to protect the Druze, protect the Kurds.
Oh, okay.
The
Oh,
situation in Syria and Lebanon, both are very fluid. And don't forget, once before the creation of the Christian state of Lebanon, it was part of Syria.
mm, okay.
I
Now
mean,
I understand why you didn't. They don't want them to, restore the infrastructure. Now I understand why.
Yeah, it's infrastructure to destroy Israel,
Mm-hmm.
to help conquer the north of Israel. Yes, Helen.
well, I know you're commenting mostly on Israel, but I've heard you in the past talking about the UK and Europe. Have you any thoughts on the state of the UK and Europe at the moment?
Well, from what I see, I think the majority of mayors,
Mm,
the majority of mayors in the UK are Muslims.
true.
The Islamic population is growing so strong.
Mm,
I mean, I can't use this as an example, but when I came to the UK a few years ago, if you remember, I was staying with Vicky and John Larry. And
yes.
rest in peace, John Larry. And I would take, after he passed, Vicky was not driving, so I had to take taxis everywhere. All the drivers were Pakistanis,
Yeah.
nice guys. But I was very careful not to give any information about who I am and what I do.
Mhm.
So listen, you have your newspapers there, and you know what's going on in your country. But Islam is growing so quickly. I
Mm.
don't want to say the UK is a sinking ship, but it's very scary. We have a lot of Jewish friends in the UK are making Aliyah now.
Yeah, I know. That's so sad. I know it's good for them, but it's very sad for England because any country that loses its Jewish community just sinks into decline.
Yes,
I think what is sad is most Brits don't seem to realize what is happening. It's funny when I go to Israel, people see it really clearly, but you talk to Brits here and they don't see it.
I have to tell you something. It's really a lecture, and we have a few minutes. I'll try to make it very short.
Mhm.
But as a stamp collector, I always remember the stamps, and I'm 76, so I remember stamps from the 1950s. But
Wow.
three little countries in Europe, Luxembourg, Netherlands, and Belgium, and they were the beginning of the common market. And
Mm.
it started out these three little countries, then it became 10-nation common market, then it became the European Union. And the golden rule of the European Union is that war is bad, and all wars are because of Christianity and Jesus Christ and the Bible. And so the European Union became very anti-Christian, very anti-history of Europe.
Right.
And of course, the whole question of crusades. I see the Crusades in a completely different way. Europe was invaded by the Muslims 1,000 years ago or more,
Mhm.
and the Crusades were there to defend Europe,
Mhm.
and then come to the Holy Land. So you have, of course, the Islamic approach, you have the Christian approach, you have the Jewish approach that sees the Crusades as a bad thing. But basically, Europe became godless as a result of the European Union. Godless.
Mhm.
If you believe that there should never be war in Europe, that's wonderful. But if you
Mhm.
have a warlike people like the Muslims,
Mhm.
and I'm not saying this to offend Muslims.
Of
Muslims know
course. No, of course.
Islam and jihad. This is part of their religion.
Mhm.
So if the Christians and also how shall I say, the socialist Jews, utopian, naive people
Mhm.
want to make lovey-dovey with the Muslims who want to kill them. Uh,
Mhm.
I have to tell you, I have a sister. I love my sister very much. She's 80. She's going to be 81 pretty soon.
Yes.
Retired professor. And once she had a big fight with my wife. So she's telling my wife how she would give money to Muslims in the university who came asking for money to build their mosque. And my wife said, "You're crazy," she said to my sister. "They're going to kill you. They're going to get entrenched. They're going to take over." And they say that that's what they're going to do.
Mhm.
And Jews, liberal Jews, don't take it seriously. The Christians don't take it seriously. I always say in the churches, don't be angry with me, Helen. You know I love you. I say the Christians are asleep, the Jews are comatose. We can't see. We are like deer on the highway and blinded by the lights of the oncoming cars.
Mhm.
So England is in a very bad situation. France is in a very bad situation.
True.
We have
True.
40,000 French immigrants coming this year. 40,000 French immigrants coming in. Um, uh, why I get into trouble? I see Ari got up for a moment, but I wanted him to hear this. You have 6 million Jews approximately in America.
Mhm.
Intermarriage is 80%. Do your math.
Mhm.
So you have about 11 million Judeo-Christian families and Messianic. They're going to be slaughtered in the United States. So we're going to get 10 million immigrants just from the U.S. and Canada. But
Wow.
Britain and France, you've got all these people who
Mhm.
cannot stay in those countries anymore.
Yes.
And the only country in Europe where the Jews are safe is Hungary, the dictatorship of
Yeah.
the Jews are safe because they don't let these terrorists into the country.
Mhm.
Relatively speaking, Poland is also safe, but
Mhm.
Poland has liberalized a little bit now.
Oh,
So,
has it? Yeah.
huh?
I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Well, you
I
had a
can see, Avi, I can see the rising anti-Semitism in the United States. You've got the universities that are turning out left wing, students because they're anti-colonial, anti-white supremacy, they're anti-capitalism, anti-Western civilization because all the professors are Marxists. So the next generation doesn't look good. It doesn't look like it's going to be pro-American. And then you've got the rise of what they call the woke right. It's kind of like this new movement on the right wing that is not traditionally just tolerant and follow the Constitution, obey the laws, work within the democracy, try to make a smaller government, more pro free market. No, they hate the Jews. They think the Jews control everything, and they are okay. They believe in authoritarianism. They believe that we have to do something about the Jews with any cost, by any means necessary. Mob action, vigilante justice,
Mhm.
whatever. And then I hear from a lot of the Christian Zionists, or you can call them dispensationalists or whatever, the Christians that believe there's a future for ethnic Israel in biblical prophecy, they're saying that their own people that believe like them are waning, they're getting fewer, whereas people that believe in replacement theology, or they call reformed theology, or covenant theology, supersessionism, and so for fulfillment theology, those are getting stronger. So many Christians now think that, once Jesus came, that was the end of ethnic Israel, and Israel, they just have to stay in exile and beg their host country, to tolerate them as best they can or convert to Christianity, but they have no right to national self-determination. They have no right to a country of their own. They look at them as it's Arab land. Even though the Arabs conquered an area 3,000 times bigger than Israel by force, by the most brutal expansionist colonialism imaginable. Israel has never conquered any territory. They just want to go back to this tiny little sliver of land that's not big enough to write the word Israel on a map, and that's stealing Arab land. That's the way America is headed.
Artie, did I tell you about my lunch with a neo-Nazi in Florida?
Yeah, I believe I heard that story, but you can tell it again if you want.
All I can say is there are 4 groups in America that have one thing in common, and that's kill the Jews. You've got my calculation is 30 million Muslims in America. 30 million, 3 million, 10% are terrorists. My neo-Nazi friend told me that after the killing of George Floyd, the militias went from 3 million to 30 million. 10% are neo-Nazi. 10%. That's 3 million. So you got 3 million Muslims, 3 million neo-Nazis. You've got Black Lives Matter, which is something created by the Islamic Jihad, funded and created by the Islamic. They want to kill the Jews because Jews are the slumlords, and Jews are also supporting abortion. Who's getting aborted? Black babies. So the Jews are guilty of genocide, killing black babies. Then you've got Antifa, which is this, who knows what it is. I don't think the Jews stand a chance. And even if Jews are married to Christians and Messianics, everybody gets killed unless they leave. And I don't know you, but I recommend that you make Aliyah as fast as you can. I believe Israel's population is going to grow from 10 million to 20 million imminently. A lot of crazy stuff is going to happen. I don't know if you heard me before, but I voted 3 times for Trump. I think Trump has been remarkably good for Israel. Biden was a terror for us.
Yeah,
Trump has been good for Israel. But listen, anything happens. Wall Street crashes. The dollar collapses. You're going to have rioting in the streets. And the one thing they all have in common is they're going to be looking for the Jews. And they're going to be killing Jews. And even if a Christian woman marries a Goldberg and she has that name, Goldberg, she's a Jew. She's going to be killed. So I don't know. I wrote a letter. Huh?
Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi, yes. I don't know if you want to hear my joke. Whoopi Goldberg. That'll take another 5 minutes. But I think
I remember that joke.
You know what? I'll tell you the joke because we got to end the program. And it has to be funny. This Jewish guy has 3 sons. And, we Jewish people, we're very, very cliquey. We don't like our boys and girls to marry out. So the first son comes home and says, Daddy, I met the girl of my dreams. What's her name? O'Malley. So the father says, O'Malley? But that's not a Jewish name. And so the son says, Daddy, I love her. I'm going to marry her. Give me your blessing. So he gives him the blessing. And then the father, prays, please, God, let my next son marry a girl with a Jewish name. Second son comes home. I met the girl of my dreams. What's her name? Smith. Smith? That's not a Jewish name. I don't care. I love her. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I heard that before from your brother. You have my blessing. Go in peace. Then the third son comes home. I said, Daddy, I met the girl of my dreams. What's her name? Goldberg. Oh, really? Praise God, you're marrying a girl with a Jewish name. What's her first name? Whoopi. So let me tell you, I think there are going to be a lot of Whoopies coming to live in Israel. And I wrote a letter to the president of Israel. I got very angry with him because he wouldn't answer me. And finally, he said, thank you. That's all he said, thank you. But a few weeks later, it was on the Israeli news that the Israeli government has a secret plan to the immediate absorption of 500,000 Jews from the United States. I'm not talking about 500,000 Jews. I'm talking about 10, maybe more million people. And people get very angry with me here in Israel because they say it'll include Christians, it'll include Messianics. The gates are going to open because all these people are going to be fleeing. And forgive the very rude example, it's like if you're in the hospital and the doctors decide to give you an enema. You know what an enema is. Can you fight that? You can't fight it. You get an enema, we're going to get an enema of 10 million immigrants. Jews, Christians, and Messianics.
But actually, I'm not allowed to. They would turn me away, even though I have two.
Very correct. Today, they would turn you away. Yeah. My prediction, and I base the success of my Judeo-Christian political party in Israel on the fact that there are going to be so many millions of people. It's going to be a flood. Can you stop a flood? Can you stop a tsunami?
No.
Earthquake? Can you stop a volcano? Things happen. And the question is, do we see it happening? Did the Jews in Germany, the Jews in Europe, did they see all this happening? No, nobody believed it because the Germans were so good to the Jews in World War I. So today, everyone says, oh, it could never happen in America. It's going to happen in America too, because you've got these Muslims, you've got these neo-Nazis, you've got the Black Lives Matter, you've got the Antifa. You could have 100% chaos in the United States and Canada. You know, and I warned the president of Israel. I said, we've got to get ready for this massive aliyah. Israel's population is going to double imminently. So everyone thinks I'm nuts. Maybe I'm nuts. I don't know, but I think God is crazy also. God is crazy.
You're prophetic, Avi.
Well, I mean, the Bible does say that God will regather the Jews from all the countries where they were scattered, not some of them, not most of them, but all of them.
Pastor Glenn Howard, are you there? Can you hear me? I don't know if Glenn Howard is close to the speaker. Glenn Howard, Pastor Glenn Howard.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Can you give the exact quote from Ezekiel that the Jews will come home trembling from the west?
Oh, I think Ezekiel 37, 38 talks a lot about that, but also I think Zechariah talks about all of them coming up to celebrate the feast.
Amen.
No, you gave me a specific quote where it says that the Jews will come home from the west trembling. The word was trembling.
I would have to look it up. It's been too long, Avi. I'm getting old. You got to remember, I'm an old man now. Good night. I'm 10 years older than you are. So
well, if I'm 18, you're 28.
I'd have to look it up, Avi. It's just been too long.
I know, but let me just tell you, I didn't forget you. I didn't forget
Well,
you.
I appreciate that.
I think it's Ezekiel. It was something about the Jews coming home from the west trembling.
Well, it says he's going to send the hunters in and they're going to hunt them down.
I agree with you. There are many quotes.
Yeah, that's Jeremiah, the hunters and the fishers.
Yeah.
I try not to quote the Bible too much, even though it's there in my mind. And I try to look at the writing on the wall. Jewish people, there's always an excuse to kill the Jews. And if Jews marry Messianics or Jews marry Christians, you have to kill the Jews, the Christians, and the Messianics. I'm expecting all these people to come to Israel. So at this stage, you're right, Ari. You may be on some blacklist, but the day will come that it's going to change. And if and when my party gets into the Knesset, I'm going to work for that. Listen, I have a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer it. Is the Messiah coming or returning only for the Southern Baptists? The
No,
Messiah
for the
coming-
whole world, for the whole world, and but particularly for the Jews, of course.
I know, but where's he coming to? To Jerusalem.
Jerusalem.
Yes.
So if the Messiah is going to be standing on the Mount of Olives, can the rabbis or certain rabbis say, okay, well, guess what? We don't want the Christians here. They can't, because then the Messiah is not the Messiah for everyone. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm.
For the
Oh,
Messiah,
right. Then my position will be validated, and I'll say, like, if the Jewish Messiah, if I believed in that Jesus was the Jewish Messiah all this time, you can't exclude me from citizenship anymore.
well, all this will change very soon, I believe.
But I don't know why they would feel sorry for me because I mean, if they're getting flooded with Aliyah requests, I would be at the very bottom of the list because that's the law. If you've converted to another religion, you're no longer eligible for right of return.
Well, you remember what I said before about the Holocaust? I was talking about the Holocaust. The British mandatory government was issuing certificates of immigration to certain Jewish people. That was controlled by the socialist parties in Israel. I'm talking about a giant human enema. Israel is going to get an enema, and you cannot stop it. It's God's enema. He's going to straighten us out from all the crazy stuff. And I have to tell you, there's a very famous podcaster, very nationalist Jew. He's not religious. He's what you think is a liberal. And when I said that Jews are going to come home with Christians, he turned the podcast off.
Wait, are you saying Christians will go to Israel that were not even born Jewish will go to Israel?
Right, because it's anyone who's going to be standing with us. Don't forget, what are the biblical borders? Biblical borders are from the Nile to the Euphrates.
Right.
What's on the other side of the Euphrates? The Kurds. The Kurds are not enemies. We will be good neighbors with the Kurds. And Egypt, the Nile, won't exist anymore. If you look at Ezekiel 29, there's going to be a tremendous flood from Aswan all the way to the excuse me for interrupting myself. Angela, are you still there? Angela quoted me from
Yes.
Hosea.
Hi, Avi.
What was the quote?
Yeah, it's from Hosea, chapter 11, verse 10. When he roars, his children shall come trembling from the west.
Yes, that's the one. That's
Verse
the one.
11, they shall come trembling like the birds from Egypt, like the doves from the land of Assyria, and I will return them to their homes, declares the Lord.
They don't ask you if you are a Reformed Jew, a conservative Jew, or an Orthodox Jew, or a Messianic Jew. And the Messiah is on the Mount of Olives one day waiting for all of us, and he doesn't want to hear the Southern Baptists coming and saying, oh, only we are going to be saved, or the Greeks, or the Catholics, all these different groups who say that only they are saved. That's nonsense. Anyone who loves God and stands with Israel, that's what's going to happen. And I think we're going to have the United States of Israel, Lebanon, it will become again a Christian country, allied with Israel under the umbrella of Israel's protection. Syria, I don't want to talk too much now because it's so crazy, it's so far in advance. But the future is now, and people have to start thinking about it.
Now, Avi, there are so many scriptures throughout. Jeremiah 3, 17, 18 talks about, I'm going to bring them together in Jerusalem to honor the Lord. Even the house of Israel together with from the northern lands, which I have given you as an inheritance.
Right.
Chapter 23, chapter 31. He who scatters will bring you back together like a flock. And it talks about from all the nations and all the lands. I mean, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Hosea, many of them. There's dozens and dozens of scriptures declaring that.
Yeah, no, but the specific quote I was looking for was they will come back trembling from the West. That's what Angela was kind enough to share with us. By the way, Helen, you know Angela, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Angela
Good.
McBride.
You see, there are some good people in the UK.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, Angela. She lives in the other side of the country. I live in the Wild West.
Yes, unfortunately.
The ocean, as far as they're concerned.
And
Sorry.
the other thing you said about, you touched on some kind of an economic crisis in the West, kind of accelerating this. This, as much as I support Trump's, America first kind of philosophy of not being controlled by the UN and so forth, getting strong industrial base. If this turns into a full-fledged tariff war, trade war, then it could be a disaster. If it's anything like the Smoot-Hawley tariffs in the 1930s, after that law was passed, the stock market over the next 2 years, from like 1930 to 1932, fell by 85% of the stock of the Dow Jones or whatever the stock market index was. And so you're right. And America is no longer a civilized nation. People are going to be panicking. They're going to turn into savages. They're going to steal everything that's not bolted down from their neighbor or from the stores or from whoever.
I have to tell you something. I'm going to have to end this Zoom because I have another Zoom with Odessa, Texas coming up. But I wanted to say something which I wrote about in my second book. I've written 7 books, but my second book, I talk about how the plan of Islam is to take over the universities. I wrote this in 1999. And the American universities have been, all of them, taken over by billions and billions of dollars of aid from Islamic countries on the condition that the universities cooperate and participate in the settling of Muslim students in America, and that the professors have to go according to the Islamic agenda. And so America now is my wife picked up a broadcast. I'll conclude with this, and then we will continue next week, God willing. My wife picked up a broadcast. She was a monitor of the Arabic media. My wife is from Egypt, so she knows Egyptian Arabic. And the Saudis were saying, even if it takes us 150 years, we know how to make America a Muslim country. Then 30 years later, they said, oh, we thought it would take us 150 years. It's only going to take us another 30 years, and America will become a Muslim country. So America is going to lose the Jews. It's going to lose its good Christians. And you're right, the country's going to go down the tubes. But will there be a Holocaust in America? I believe there will be. Unfortunately, I wish there were a way to stop it. Maybe Trump can do something about it. But like you said very correctly, you've got a good grip on it. There are a lot of right-wing people who are anti-Christian. They're anti-Jewish. They're anti-everything that America stands for. We are in a very, very delicate situation now. When I say we, I mean the human race, not just Israel and America.
Yeah, it's true.
Anyway, listen, my dearly beloved friends, I love to see you every week. I have to get ready for a TV shoot in God's Learning Channel. And so I think if you go to Brant Fricker, you can listen to that too. I think it's live. Anyway.
Thanks, Avi.
Lori, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Shalom, shalom.
I'm very offended that you loved me and you left me the last hour.
I was here. I heard every word.
Good. Okay. So God
Thank you
willing,
so much, Abby. Thank you. Blessings.
Shalom.
I hope Rachel had a lovely birthday, did she?
yes, she had a lovely birthday.
Give her my love.
She was very angry with me because I didn't remember her birthday a day before.
Oh.
It was early in the morning. I just opened my eyes. I didn't have my first coffee. And my wife said, You didn't remember my birthday. So, but it's tomorrow. Doesn't matter.
Give her my love. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Avi.
Bye. Bye.
Good
Shalom.
to see you
Shalom,
looking well
shalom.
and everything went good with your pacemaker.
Thank you.
Pleased
Yeah.
about that. See
I'm
you
happy.
soon. Take care. Take care. Bye-bye.
Shalom, shalom.